All right, here we go, everyone. It is Donovan and Dino here on a Tuesday night, along with Jimmy Donovan. I'm Dave DeNatale. Happy to have everybody with us. And, boy, I'm still reeling a little bit from Sunday and what happened with the break. I'm still kind of sitting there going, I can't believe the season's gonna end like this. And that's kind of it's almost like a hangover. And it just feels like, man, we're going to have a December of what feels like meaningless games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can put a smile on this. They knew the ramifications of it. They were really on a tightrope. There's no doubt about it. That there was no room to slip because of the position that they were in at 5-6, and they needed to win, and they basically really needed to win out.
Right.
Yeah, and if you go around town, I think a lot of people are really disappointed, and then take a broader look and say, I can't believe a team with that kind of talent is not going to go to the playoffs.
Right.
And really, basically, is kind of eliminated with 4 weeks left to go in the regular season. And that's a problem. That's a problem right now. I mean, this team shouldn't be 5-7.
No.
And, I don't want to hear about, well, there's, you got to get to know each other and everything like that. There was ample time to do that in the offseason and in the walk-up and the build-up to what was going to go on. And it just didn't happen.
I still think about, it was right around the Bills game we were talking about this, that, there was such a missed opportunity for this football team in the summer, and just made me think about what you just said. From the Colts practices and the preseason to get everybody on the same page and to get this team sharp. And they really let that go. They let that time slip away. And it was obvious from that opening day and the 18 penalties and everything that happened against the Titans. And it's like this team never recovered from that.
No, we harped on how important, because of the history, the bad history of opening day with the Browns since they've come back in 1999. They've only won the opening game once, and they've tied it once, and everything else has been a loss. And most of those have been at home. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have been at home probably over 90% of those times. And, you knew that you had a chance to win at least what we thought the team was going to be, to go up against a Tennessee team coming into an incredible atmosphere in Cleveland on opening day. And it was a bust. If it was a Broadway show, they would have closed it. I mean, if it was Pippin and you had a bad opening number of Magic to Do, the show would have been closed.
Yes.
That's how bad it was on opening day. Dino, the second game against the Jets, it wasn't pretty, but we are so accepting of getting a win here that we were, all right, everything's going to be okay. We're 1-1 and everything like that. But remember who the Jets had that night. Yeah. I mean, they had nobody. They had lost their quarterback and the backup quarterback. It never really took shape. Now, that's why I think everybody was saying, okay, the 3 in a row. I mean, they beat a good Buffalo team. I mean, a really good Buffalo team, we're finding out. They really were, the way you had to play Pittsburgh was the way they played them on that Thursday night, minus the brawl, and then did what was expected, what everybody's doing to Miami, and they just blew them out. And so you're saying, okay, better late than never.
Yeah, exactly.
But then, you go over to Pittsburgh, and it's the same old song over there. Right. It really is. It doesn't matter. And we talked about it, on Monday morning. It's the same. So even with all of these new faces and a new head coach and Odell Beckham Jr., nothing changed over in Pittsburgh.
Right. Is that going to? You talk about the list of the biggest disappointments of the season, and again, there's still 4 weeks to go. But what we thought and what the reality is going to be are two totally different things. The fact that Beckham never was more of a factor in games. I mean, I thought about the Jets game, like you mentioned. I mean, that Monday night game, and he had the big touchdown, he had the great catch, but he never really, outside of that, we never really saw him stand out, and it was always a struggle to get him the football throughout this season.
Yeah, well, when you make a trade like they did, which was huge, okay, and we gave them not 2 thumbs up, we gave them 200,000 thumbs up for making the deal and bringing that kind of a player, Odell Beckham Jr., from the Giants over to here, to Cleveland. So when you make a trade like that, you make it because you're going to be playing in big games, okay? But in the biggest games, whether it was they didn't know how to get him the ball or he wasn't running the right routes, There was some misconnection there, though, and it didn't happen. So it didn't happen in that critical stretch of Tennessee.
Yep.
Not the Jets. I mean, that was like playing a JV Saturday morning game. The Rams, the Seahawks, the Patriots,
the Broncos.
The Broncos, and going out and dominating, out in Denver with their quarterback situation at the time, playing a kid that had never taken a snap in an NFL game, Brandon Allen. I mean, that's why you bring players like that over.
Right.
And it's not just him. I mean, that's why you made the deal and gave up a really good right guard in Kevin Zeitler, who they have not replaced.
No.
And you bring in Olivier Vernon to go 1-2 with Myles Garrett and a third-string quarterback who had never taken a snap. His pants were clean at the end of the game because they didn't touch him.
Right.
That's why you make these moves to get these players, because you're going to play. And I'm not even speaking about playing inside your division. Okay, because you want to win those games, and you say, if I get a big-time player like that, he'll know how to play in those games and how to succeed. But it never happened. I mean, he had 3 catches for 29 yards on Sunday in the biggest game of the year.
Right. You can't have that. Just thinking about the Browns for a second, the big story today in the NFL was the fact that, the Carolina Panthers have been in a 4-game losing skid. But I can remember when they were in the Super Bowl, wasn't that long ago. They fired Ron Rivera today. Were you surprised?
No, I'm not. I'm surprised that they did it right now.
Yeah.
It's 4 games left to go.
Right.
But they have a new owner, okay, and this is his first full year. He kind of got in, late at the end of the year last year. And I think when the team wasn't going well, when the Cam Newton situation arose, that he was injured and he wasn't going to play, and they were going and they were losing and things like that, I think he finally kind of came out and said, this is unacceptable. This isn't the way I ran my business, and I want to have my fingers on this thing a little bit closer. And so I think that I don't think that's where it's going to end, incidentally, in Carolina. I mean, I wouldn't be too comfortable if I was the GM there right now. There's a great debate. Do they go back to Cam Newton, or do they cut ties with Cam Newton? And will he ever be healthy enough to play? And more importantly, is he ever going to be the Cam Newton that really burst into the NFL, a la Lamar Jackson, and took them to a Super Bowl? And he won an MVP at that point, too. Now, here's something to watch out for there. That new owner is from the Pittsburgh area. Kevin Colbert, the longtime Steeler GM, has not signed a new deal with Pittsburgh. The Steelers have been trying to get a contract done with him, and he has not done a deal yet. So you kind of now he was this new owner, Tepper, I believe, is his last name.
I think David Tepper.
Okay, was kind of like Jimmy Haslam. I think he had a little share of the Steelers. So I mean, there's a Pittsburgh influence here. Keep your eye on that name to go in and take that over, or the Wizard of Oz, Ozzie Newsome.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense too.
Yeah, and this guy wants to be a winner, so he's probably going to bring in a guy like this, either Ozzie or a Colbert or maybe somebody else. But those are the 2 hot names right now, and then they would reconstruct the team. It's an interesting twist. Rivera's a good coach, though.
Yes.
I mean, he'll get a job somewhere. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there. But I thought he did a good job in Carolina. He took them to a Super Bowl at one point. He's an old Chicago Bear. He was part of that great
85 team,
defensive team, and did a great job out there as a player. And I really thought he did a good job. It might be a case where you have a guy that's been there for a long time. Is the team still listening to him? Sometimes the team will just, this guy's been around too long.
I think of it just because, look, we don't know how the Browns situation is going to come out. But if you're a team that, you always have it when teams are looking for coaches. Well, we want either, a guy with, previous head coaching experience, or we want an offensive-minded guy, or we want a defensive-minded guy. Well, if you want a defensive-minded guy who has taken a team to the Super Bowl, has got proven head coaching success plus defense success. I mean, Ron Rivera is a guy that's going to get some phone calls, I would think, down the line. And maybe this works out well for him. Carolina's jettisoning him so quickly. But you just think about him and you think about Mike McCarthy. There are going to be, and again, I don't know if the Browns are going to be in this situation. We have a long way to go.
Well, I think it's an unknown right now.
Yeah, there are going to be names out there that might be enticing for any team that's going to be looking for a coach. And sometimes, we end up seeing 6 to 10 teams sometimes by the time a year is over that are going to have head coaching vacancies.
Oh, yeah, easily. Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Washington has an interim head coach right now, and it will continue throughout. I mean, Pat Shurmur could be in a lot of trouble with the New York Giants. Adam Gase could be in trouble after 1 year with the Jets, because basically, I mean, he's kind of running the show there, and that's a real dysfunctional situation. I mean, you could go through it a lot of different ways, but there always are a lot of changes within the NFL. The thing for the Browns right now is, how are they going to play over these last 4 games? Are they going to play hard? Are they going to continue to try and improve? Are they going to fight to the finish? Or are some of these guys, going to say, no playoffs? I don't know. Do I want to risk this thing? It's kind of like the new situation in college football, where kids say, I don't want to play in the bowl game. If we're not in the college football playoffs, I don't want to play in the bowl. I don't want to play in the Outback Bowl.
Right.
I want to play in the Big Bowl.
Right.
If I'm not going to play in the Big Bowl, I'm not going to play.
That's right.
The Bosa's did it, right? They say that, for instance, right now that none of the Alabama players are going to play in the bowl game because they're not in the playoff.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, you might have like a half dozen Crimson Tide players who are going to say, no, not.
Denzel Ward didn't play in the bowl game with the Buckeyes, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's happening more and more. So I think you have to keep your eye on effort level. Watch the Browns not only for score, but effort level.
Right.
And watch the inactives every week. Who's up? Who's not up?
Right.
Take a look at that. That will be the interesting thing, and I know that's what they have their eye on these last 4 games. Effort, who's really into it, who's part of the program, even though we're not going to go to the playoffs.
Keith says, hey, give these guys the benefit of the doubt the next few years. The Browns will be contenders. It's about learning to play together and gel in a system. I get that, but at some point, you see other teams with first-year head coaches excel much quicker. I mean, it's not like Freddie Kitchens, was an unknown for this team. He was the offensive coordinator and the running backs coach last year.
Yeah.
So it's not like there should have been a real difficult process. I'm talking about the offense. You could talk about Steve Wilkes and the defense and a new system and personnel, but offensive-wise, this shouldn't have been a big adjustment this year. I mean, it's getting Odell Beckham into the fray. That was the big challenge.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything else. The disturbing thing, again, as you go inside this season, is that what unit did play well? I mean, the defense was supposed to be great.
Right.
Under the summer sun in Berea, I mean, the offense couldn't move the ball because of this fearsome front four that they have. And, I haven't seen it really. I mean, I haven't seen it go on. I haven't seen it develop. And now you're at a point in time where, you have the Demarius Randall situation. That's not good.
No.
You have injuries now. You have a suspension. The best player possibly on the entire team is suspended for the remainder of the year. I don't know that Vernon will play, this week or another week.
Or the rest of the year, right.
Because of a cranky knee. But the defense, when did it ever really dominate a game? Maybe the Steeler game. The 21, but that's one game.
Elements of the Ravens game, maybe.
Yeah, and I think all year long we've been waiting for the offense. And are we going to live on one game against the Miami Dolphins that played with, really first and second year free agent players?
Right.
I just expected a lot more. I really did. I think you deserved a lot more than what we got.
I mean, because that was the whole point. The roster had so many. Big names, and we're gonna take over the league, and it just never. There weren't dominating games this year, and that's still. Jay says the special teams coordinator is the best coach on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, but I have to tell you something. They had a bad day Sunday.
Yes, they did.
I mean, they had a bad day Sunday. Okay, in the most important game of the year. Okay. They did not cover kicks well, and they did not return kicks well. They made bad decisions. They had a muffed kick at one point. And the Steelers, the opening kick that the Steelers got, which was after the Browns kicked the field goal, I mean, they started at the 40-yard line. Right. The days of starting at the 40-yard line in the NFL are over. I mean, unless you kick the ball out of bounds,
that's right?
You get the ball at the 40. They had a bad day. They had a very, very bad day in the biggest game of the year. I agree. If you take a look at the whole landscape, Mike Prefer did a good job, dramatically better than what they did with Amos Jones a year ago. Dramatically better, and he did it. I'll give him a lot of credit. He did it with an unknown punter who's become a very solid punter, and they kind of gutted it through with Austin Seibert. He had a horrible training camp and preseason, and then they stuck with him, and he's been good.
Yeah.
I don't think he's been great.
Not
He's
been
been
great,
good.
but good.
Yeah.
Just, really, the bad game against, I think, was the Steelers on the night game when I think he missed 2 field goals or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But other than that, he was okay. Let's see. Richard says, Jim and Dino, with all the recent moves, do you think a player like Jamie Meter, I haven't heard that name in a while, is ever considered to be signed?
The Parma Pierogi.
Yes, right.
Isn't it?
That's right.
Jamie Meter, who blocked that field goal.
Yeah.
Against the then San Diego Chargers. They
Yes.
weren't in LA yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
On Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he blocked that field goal, and then they missed another field goal, and the Browns won. And
Yeah.
went to the Super Bowl with 1 win. Let me tell you, that was an amazing day, and I love Jamie Meter.
Yeah.
Went to Ashland, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely
and,
right.
That's the kind of guy that you need 2 or 3 of those kind of guys on your team.
Yep.
You need 2 or 3 kinds of Jamie Meters on those teams. Joe Schobert's kind of like that.
Yeah.
A guy that everyone thought at best he'll be a good special teams player, and he's playing at an all-pro level at middle linebacker, and he wasn't even a middle linebacker when he came out of Wisconsin. I mean, he was an outside linebacker.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. A guy like that, they don't have enough of those guys.
What was the behind-the-scenes story Jay wants to know about Devereaux Lawrence? And it comes up on a day where the Browns got rid of Chris Smith today.
Yeah,
The defensive, it was interesting how guys that they invested time and energy on some of these guys on the defensive line. And obviously we know Chris Smith's story. I mean, they got him early last year and didn't get to play a whole heck of a lot. And then obviously lost his girlfriend in that horrible car crash when the year started. And it was just interesting, that interesting question that some of these defensive linemen, the Browns had went out and gotten, never materialized.
Well, I think what happened was, first of all, a tremendous training camp player who had a huge preseason games. I mean, he did. I remember he sacked Dwayne Haskins in the Washington Redskins game, and he had a couple of other big hits, and he forced them to keep him, on the roster. And he did an okay job. I think he actually had an interception. He had on a tip ball, I think Baltimore,
you're right.
wasn't it,
Yes.
against the Ravens? And then they saw a drop-off, from what I understand. Now, this is from I understand from them. And when they really needed him, which was the Miami game,
yes,
he pitched a no-hitter. He went Nolan Ryan. He didn't have a game for them, and that was the game they really needed him. They didn't have Ogunjobi. Myles Garrett was suspended. Vernon was out. Richardson went outside to play defensive end. This guy, they really counted on that, and I don't think that they were pleased with the way he played. There was a penchant for getting penalties, stupid penalties at times because of a fire inside of him, which at times was uncontrollable. I think from what I've heard, that was it. It was a lack of performance when the chips were on the table.
All right. Let's see what else we have. Anthony says, rookie head coach, sophomore quarterback. I was only expecting 8-8 anyways.
Now you might get there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You may be happy.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't. I thought, and I remember saying when we jokingly played the schedule game, I really thought that the Browns could win 10 games this year, and knowing it was a competitive division, get a home wild card game and get, what would that be, the 4th seed or the 5th seed or whatever, and play a home wild card game over at the stadium. I really did. I wasn't expecting to be having 5 wins, on December 3rd, and wasn't expecting to be, hoping for 8-8 at this point.
I'm going to compare something to you and follow along. If I took you to Mally's,
yes,
okay, and I said, hey, I got paid today, and you can have as much as you want, anything you want, okay, you would go, oh my God, that's unbelievable. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then it would come time to eat it. And as your mom and dad used to say, your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
That's right.
Your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Here's what I think. When I look at the Browns right now, and they break the huddle, and they have Mayfield at quarterback, and they have Chubb, my adopted son, and Kareem Hunt in the backfield together at the same time. And they split out Landry and Beckham, okay? And, for a brief amount of time, they had Njoku. That's a lot. And they don't know what to do with it. Right. Their eyes are bigger than their stomach in this case. I don't think they've ever really figured out, how do we do it? They're here. How do we do it now?
Right.
I mean, what do we do? And even in these last couple of weeks, and specifically on Sunday, I don't think they knew what they wanted to do with Kareem Hunt. He's there. How do you stop pass rush? You stop it with screens and draws.
Yes.
What was he unbelievable at in Kansas City? Screens, which he was absolutely indefensible running, and draws.
Right.
And he didn't touch the ball in the second half.
Nope.
I think it's the old, you're at the Sunday bar and you put it all in the tub of the banana split boat, and you can't eat it.
Right.
And I really think that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah.
I don't think they know what to do with them all. They're all there.
They're all there.
What are we going to do with them?
I know.
What are we
and it's
gonna
like,
do? Yeah.
okay, this, because I think about that San Francisco game. What did they do? The first play of the game, they tried to reverse pass with Odell Beckham, I think it was, or whatever. Yeah. It's like you sit there because you're going for, you want to get the big chocolate bunny, and then the next play you want to, yeah, Jimmy, you're right. I think they just couldn't figure out how to, get the overall and make the overall work.
Yeah, and their attempts at being clever have all, whereas last year, at times when they did it late in the year, and they were kind of free and easy and everything was flowing and everything that Freddie dialed up worked, and sometimes in big, big ways. I can remember they opened up their first drive against Carolina after Christian McCaffrey had gone down the field on their defense and scored. And I think Mayfield threw like a 75-yard pass to Brashard Perriman.
Yes.
And then they went in and they tied the game up. And then I remember Landry throwing the pass against the Bengals in the last game of the home season. And this year, anytime they try to do that, they don't even get the ball off.
No.
Here they are on a critical drive late in the game, realizing that it's do or die against Buffalo. Okay, they're about ready to go 2-7 in that game after Buffalo had scored to go ahead. And they try that double shovel thing that Jerry Hughes picked up, scooped and scored on it, and then they ruled it was a shovel pass and not a fumble. It's just, it hasn't worked.
No.
It worked a lot better with Brashard Perriman and Callaway on the straight and narrow. And, it worked better then. It worked better when Higgins was involved.
Yeah.
And, it just hasn't worked.
Boy, that's another big mystery. We got a lot of mysteries this year.
Well, I'm going to point out, there's a great column today. It's by my good friend, Tony, and your good friend, Tony Grossi.
Yes.
Have you guys mended fences?
Oh, yeah, we're good.
Okay,
we're good.
All right. There's a great column today, and he lists all the bizarre happenings. And he even left a bunch out. And I'm telling you, I think he's into the 50s and 60s.
Oh,
and if you read it, you'll just go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's right.
That's
right, yeah, that happened in July. Oh, yeah, that's right, that happened, yeah. Yeah, the wristwatch. Yeah, that happened in September.
Oh.
Yeah, his pants weren't down over his kneecap. Yeah, that happened there. Yeah, the owner's wife wore the knit hat with the number 95 on it.
That happened, yeah. The shoes, the visor.
Yeah. It's when you see it in print, it's pretty astounding, and it kind of tells you why we are where we are.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, we'll find out here shortly about Ohio State and where they are in the college football playoff. But what did you take away from the way they played against Michigan on Saturday?
Oh, it was astounding.
I know you were listening.
I listened to both broadcasts.
I know
I was
you
on
did.
the bus going over to Pittsburgh, and what a great ride that was. But I had an empty seat beside me. It was supposed to be Demarius Randall's seat.
No,
I jest.
Yeah.
Yes, I listened to the game. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. I listened to the game going over to Pittsburgh, and that took a couple of hours. But I watched the pregame show on Fox, the big Fox show.
Which is amazing. I think they do a great job with that show.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, Urban Meyer's amazing
yes.
on that show. He really
yes,
is.
he is.
Sometimes I think they don't go to him enough.
Agreed.
But anyway, having said that, so I watched it, and of course Fox is going to build the game up. This is the game. It's the biggest game. This is Jim Harbaugh's, biggest test and everything like that. And then the game started, and Michigan went right down and scored it, but missed the extra point, a la us against Tennessee in the opening game. And then Ohio State just went right down and right down. And when I'm listening to the game, it was just, the talent gap.
Yes.
It's like a crater.
Yes.
It's a huge talent gap. It's as deep as a deep crater. How far Michigan is away. It's just amazing. And I have to tell you, I don't think it's a one-year fix.
No.
I know Ohio State's going to send a bunch of players. They're going to leave and they're going to go to the NFL. But something tells me they got a bunch more that are ready to come in and play. But it is just astounding.
When I went to the game last year, and we had good seats, and we were like on the the front row of the 30-yard line, so I was right behind the Ohio State bench, and I could watch the game. I could just tell, even then, speed and size. Ohio State was just light years ahead of Michigan, and that was last year when they scored 63 against Michigan. And I felt like Ohio State was better this year as a team with Ryan Day in his first year, and Michigan, if anything, took a step down. And you're sitting there going, man, this is crazy. And I wonder. I think Harbaugh, unless he gets an NFL job he can't refuse, I don't think he's going to get fired. I think because he's still winning enough Big Ten games and getting his team to the bowls and doing better than his predecessors. And he's a Michigan guy anyway. Unless somebody comes off and makes him an offer in the NFL that he can't refuse, I think he's going to be around for a while.
Well, the new job security in big-time college football coaching is the buyout.
Right.
It costs a ton of money to buy these guys out. I mean, how do you do it? I mean, he's making $9 million a year, I think, isn't he?
Right.
So the buyout on his contract would be astronomical, and a university would have to come up with that to buy him out. And that's become the new big obstacle. I mean, how do you buy someone out? When people say, Brian Kelly, he's not winning national championships at Notre Dame, let's get somebody else, then the quick way to come back and say, well, that's fine, but they extended him.
Right.
And if you get rid of Brian Kelly, who really hasn't done a bad job at all, okay? He's gotten them to the national championship game twice, but how do you pay that money? Even great old Notre Dame, you can't pass the box in church a couple of times to pay off Brian Kelly.
Right, and then once you take care of that contract, you got to get somebody better.
Right.
And
you might have to buy them out of a contract.
Right, exactly. Or you have to lure Urban, and I don't think Urban's going to leave right now, Fox to go anywhere. But you'd have to throw a pile of money at somebody to get them to go there. So. Yeah. I mean, it ends up being the status quo. That's why I don't know if Lincoln Riley is anxious to get to the NFL as people might think he is.
I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I think a bunch of guys, including Urban Meyer, are watching the Dallas Cowboys situation.
Yes.
Because they are the Dallas Cowboys.
That's the gold standard, yeah.
And that's the one. Now, it comes with working for a very involved owner, okay? Right. But they are the Dallas Cowboys. And, I mean, they have an endless amount of money. They have an amazing stadium. I mean, it's a city unto itself. I mean, and you are always going to be in prime time. And I think a lot of guys are saying, you know what, I'm going to watch that situation. And I'm sure Lincoln Riley might be one of them.
Yeah.
But I think Urban Meyer, who openly said, oh, yeah, those are the Dallas Cowboys. And I think a lot of guys would say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, you have to work with somebody who will be in your hip pocket, both on the sidelines and in the front office. But at the same time, as we said, I think last week we did the show, you don't have to do the 365-day recruiting like you do in college football.
Yeah.
It's a different lifestyle. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks as this all kind of unfolds. Jimmy, as always, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching another edition of Donovan and Dino right here on 3 News Facebook Live and YouTube. All right.